Alright, welcome back to my Aliens vs Predator Nightmare difficulty guided walkthrough for the Marine campaign. The highest difficulty setting, in which you need to get through each mission without a single checkpoint. In other words, if you die, it's game over, man, game over. Well, we lost our weapons after mission 1, but the pistol should be sufficient for now, as there are only 2 aliens that we need to kill to progress to the next part. And the good thing about the pistol is that it will never run out of ammo, so you can just blast away using the secondary firing mode. In this mission the difficulty increases a bit, as you would expect, but it's not that terrible yet. Mission 2 and 3 are quite doable, it's 4 and 5 where the game becomes really fucking hard. However, this is the first mission where we need to face off against the Facehuggers, and those enemies can be a pain in the dick. Fortunately, as I said in part 1, there are certain sections within the missions that can more or less be skipped, or better said, there are mandatory and non-mandatory fights. So what you will see me do in this mission is that I will be running through specific parts where you may receive some scratch damage, but that will regenerate anyway. So at the very least, you can skip certain parts taking minimal damage. Also, we get a shotgun in this mission, and that weapon is way better for me than the pulse rifle. Now, because my aiming skills are so poor, you might expect that I would prefer a machine gun. But if you ask me, if you are bad at aiming, then it's best if every shot counts. And with the shotgun you will take enemies down in like 1 or 2 hits. The pulse rifle has a high firing rate, but it's also rather weak, so that means you need to hit your target a lot.
Back in. Find a power node to get that elevator working.
So over here we have our first encounter with a facehugger. These enemies are really annoying because they are hard to hit. It's a really small target after all. And if you're not at full health or don't start spamming R1 quickly enough when they jump on your face, you're dead. Which on this difficulty means starting all over again. By the way, the second facehugger that appears after you place that electrical thing doesn't need to be killed. Just run to the elevator and you can ignore it. Now let's talk about the radar. It's a really handy piece of equipment, and even though I do advise you to pay close attention to it, it is also rather misleading. Especially facehuggers show up way too late. I'm not sure exactly how the game determines how enemies spawn and show up on the radar, but basically enemies can already be in a room when there is no sign of them on the radar. So even when you are focused on the radar, enemies can still catch you off guard, so be aware of that. Regardless, it is a very important tool. After all, the aliens are very fast and move all over the place, and you need to know from which direction they are coming. Interesting little detail by the way, you can see that the Predator has gone through here due to the green blood and the broken fence. Which would have been a nice little shortcut, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. If you try to jump down, you automatically die. So you need to move back through the building. However, in the room where the facehugger was before, this time xenomorphs will show up. Which you may or may not be able to avoid, it all depends on how they move. The game is not that predictable after all. In fact, in mission 3 I will actually need to talk about the RNG factors in this game. But that's for the next video. Right now we have a section that is quote-unquote skippable. You already have aliens on your trail, but they will also come from the other side of the bridge. However, even though you are expected to kill them all, you don't have to. Just keep running and don't stop for anything. It's very likely that you will receive what I would call scratch damage, by which I simply mean that you will get hit by a weak attack from behind from the aliens chasing you, but that's unlikely to take away a full bar of health. So even if you take damage, it will likely not be permanent. Just keep running all the way to where you need to hack the door. That will be a dead end for now, so while the hacking is in progress, you are forced to fend off all the aliens. But it's not the case that every single one from before will follow you all the way there. So for all practical purposes, you have in fact skipped the fight on the bridge this way.
Okay, rookie. Welcome to Hacking 101. Start the bypass, wait for it to complete, then remove the hack device to finalize the overload.
Alright, when the hacking is in progress, you are pretty much getting gangbanged by tons of aliens at once. And even though you have some freedom to move around, this area is very dark and the aliens can literally approach you from any side. The walls, the ceiling, the obstruction in the center, anything goes. Fortunately, as I said before, 1 or 2 shots from the shotgun can be enough to take down a xenomorph. Especially using the secondary firing mode, where you shoot 2 shells at once. However, keep in mind that when you kill an alien with a shotgun, you will cause an explosion of acid. So that means that if you blast an alien who is right in your face, that means that you have essentially committed suicide, because of the acid shower. And speaking of acid, something that you need to keep in mind throughout the entire game, try to minimize walking over the corpses of defeated aliens. Their acid will remain active for quite some time. Sure, it may be minimal damage, but if you take acid damage and a regular hit at once, it might just be that little addition that brings your health all the way down to 0. So remember what I said back in part 1, a key element of this game is to always be aware of your surroundings. Okay, I'll be speeding things up in this section, because as long as you keep moving, you will not have to worry about enemies here. But I do need to emphasize that there are enemies in the area. So if you are too slow or walk into the wrong direction, then it's a different story. Okay, this area has several eggs, which means facehuggers. So just blast them with a shotgun, preferably before they have opened up, and then get to the center of the area. After the dialogue and after you put this guy out of his misery, which you apparently cannot do before he's done talking, but once you kill him, you have a mandatory fight against a wave of xenomorphs again. Because of how the environment is constructed, rather than merely running backwards, I like to circle around and try to shoot the aliens when they are in the center, or if they just happen to show up somewhere in front of me. But it's especially important to just keep moving. Basically, in almost any section in this game, you are at an advantage if you just keep moving. That's basically just a general rule, although it's of course not always a possibility. And by the way, do not bother with the flamethrower just yet. Later on you are more or less forced to use it, but when you are not, tell that piece of junk to go fuck itself. I absolutely hate that weapon. Yeah, a burning alien will slowly burn to death, but unlike when it's bleeding, it can just keep moving at full speed. In fact, facehuggers can still jump in your face and kill you, even when they are engulfed in flames. It's simply the worst weapon in the game in my opinion, and it only has a limited use in the final area of this mission, where you need to burn all the eggs. So other than that, don't use it. It sucks. Okay, after the fight you can just get into the elevator and ignore the facehuggers. But when you get out, there's a xenomorph hidden on the wall, so make sure to kill it before it can act. After that you can just run to the final area where you have to take down the queen. However, if you are in need of healing items, you can find them near the first couple of acts on the lower floor. Other than that, just ignore all the enemies and get to the room where the queen is located.
The loading station is dead ahead. You should...
Alright, final area of this mission, and it's definitely the hardest part. This is the one time where the flamethrower does come in handy, to an extent, because you need to burn all the eggs and the facehuggers that come out of those eggs. And because facehuggers are so hard to hit, spraying fire everywhere does work to some extent. But as I said before, burning facehuggers can still jump in your face and kill you. By the way, on both sides of the room you can find stacks of ammunition, and those will constantly replenish. So you don't have to worry that much about wasting ammo. And at the queen's left side you can find some healing items. This part is very tense, because you are near the end of the mission and you are in constant danger of dying. And it can take quite a while to take out all of the eggs, or at least enough for the switch to become active. As soon as you can activate that switch, immediately get over to it to start the second phase of the fight.
Keep taking out those eggs! Power's on its way. Hold tight! Cut the power back to the furnace. The controls are right in front of the queen. Pull the lever and burn the bitch!
Alright, switch over to the pulse rifle and fire grenades at the barrels on both sides of the queen. That will start the final phase of the fight, where you'll have to fend off xenomorphs until the switch becomes usable again. And that's also the final part of this entire mission, and it's definitely the most dangerous part. You don't have the benefit of the shotgun this time, so try to rely on grenades as much as possible. Remember that the ammunition stacks will constantly replenish, so keep moving from one side of the room to the other. However, be very careful with grenades, because just like you don't want to hit an alien up close with the shotgun, it is 10 times worse with the grenade launcher. Xenomorphs move very quickly, so if you hit one who is sprinting towards you with a grenade, you pretty much have fucked yourself. So I prefer to aim on the floor instead. It's not as effective, but it's also not as dangerous. Oh fucking hell, that was so goddamn fucking close. That almost gave me a freaking heart attack. That's the thing about hard reset runs. They are really bad for your heart and your blood pressure. Once the switch becomes usable, immediately go and activate it. And that will be the end of mission 2. Not easy, but it is nothing compared to mission 4. However, mission 3 is quite easy. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and stay tuned for the next episode.